Well, first time I met your works, I would say, is when a friend of mine came to me and said, "Hey, you're gonna like it. You know, this guy is a journalist, same as you are. He's bald, same as you are, and he's asshole, same as you are. You know, so." My first question is, you know, who was the original? Is there original real life Spider Jerusalem? You know, is there someone, you know, based on, you know?
Physically, there was. He passed away in December of this last year. He was a very good friend of mine. His name was Andre Ricciardi, and he had cancer at the end there. So we just lost him, which is tragic and sad for me. But he was so perfect to personify the character that when originally he just came from my mind. There's a drawing that got published in the omnibus of Transmetropolitan that shows the very first drawing of Spider Jerusalem. So Warren described what he wanted, and I came back with that, and I created the glasses and put the bag on him, and based on what we had discussed, I came up with his accessories. And I just do this random mutant cat in the alleyway, and Warren's like, "What's that about? What are you thinking here?" And he took those ideas and integrated them into the story. But physically, he just kind of like leaped out of my imagination, and almost from the first drawing, he was there. But when as we moved on, I realized my friend Andre really personified what I was imagining. And so he was so crazy and fun. He normally would go around with the crazy long hair and a beard like Spider looks like at the beginning of the series. But for me, he shaved himself all down and modeled for me. And so I have all these wonderful photos of him, as Spider, and he really brought him to life. So I memorized Andre's face, and then he became, physically, he became Spider Jerusalem.
About the style of your work, it reminds me very much like the classic way how comics is being drawn, you know. And was it? I know you draw your first comic when you were 17, as far as
first professional ones.
First professional ones. So when was the first ever?
Oh, when I was like 10. 9 or 10, yeah. I was.
It was just a picture, or
oh no,
was
no,
a story?
I was stapling, typing paper together and writing a whole story, and I would do the headdress and design the logo, and it was like 9 pages. It's terrible, but I was so into it. I just wanted to manifest a comic book, and I had this dream that someday there would be a comic book with my work in it, my name on it. And
Sometimes dreams are coming true.
Yeah, manifestation. That's what they call it. Like when you want it so badly, you try to make it happen, and then the universe goes, "Oh, that's what you want. Well, here you go." And now I've got more comic books than I can store.
Okay, up to you if you want.
It's okay. We'll go with the boy, Alessandro.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. With the boys, and what's the best part of drawing the boys, and the best character or scene or issue or
I don't have any favorites, because I when I create something, I try to love them all. I can tell you the ones I hate more than the ones I love, because in a way I love them all because they're from my mind, you know. And the best part was I had that Ennis and I were so much on the same page that his sense of humor really fits mine, and so it was. And also for me, he finds superheroes kind of ridiculous, and I grew up on them, so we kind of yin yang when it comes to the idea of the creation of the characters. Where for me, it's like I'm happy to be drawing superheroes, even if they're doing terrible things. That actually makes me laugh. So I love that contrast, and being able to design my own characters and make them perform. That's really where the joy of all comics is for me, is trying to bring those characters to life and make them emoting and acting. I really love that part of it. So you can give me almost any character, and if I have a good script to work with where I can really make them do something, that really makes me happy.
And what about Garth Ennis? Because what about Garth Ennis when come to you and this,
Well, we
this-
knew each other and did a bunch of work at Marvel
because-
together.
Yeah,
so.
but he is known for his kind of alternative and violent stuff and crazy stuff.
But so am I. So we were just naturally fit.
Even
It's
with superheroes.
Well, if you go back to my first work, it was Space Beaver, and the whole idea with Space Beaver was to take these cute, funny animals and have them really over the top dramatic, and then when they would shoot each other with laser pistols, like blood and guts would fly out. And that was my first comic book that I wrote and drew. So like our sense of humor and our sense of what is fun to create is very much in line. So that's why, after we did Punisher together, he was like, "You got to do The Boys with me," and so he said, "It has to be you." And I had already said yes to doing Wolverine and going exclusive with Marvel, but after about a year of that, I was like, I really wish I had said yes to doing this original book with Garth Ennis, because it's an original book, and plus the idea sounded great. The original idea for it was going to be set more in like the Hitman universe, where it was going to be in the DCU proper and more subtle and less violent. And then as we developed the idea, we realized it wasn't going to work unless it was really extreme. And so I think it was me that said, well, let's make our own characters, like the way Alan Moore took the Watchmen away from Charlton and reinvented them. I said, we can do that. And so we set about creating our own original characters.
And what do you think about the reaction of the audience on something this crazy? You put the superheroes in a very different context, but the people reacted good.
Well, that's what was crazy, is that even for the comic book, it was very well received. And then, but then it scared people. So DC Comics got very nervous about publishing something so graphic. And I understood, because if you look at the original The Boys #1, it's like you'll be looking at, okay, horrible filth, violence, Batman, and then horrible filth, violence, sex, the Justice League, and there was advertisements for those books in Transmetropolitan. I'm sorry, I got Transmetropolitan on the brain. The Boys #1, you'll see those things side by side, and but ultimately, and they were really nice about it. They were accommodating, but at the same time, we were kind of stunned, and nobody was more shocked than our publisher and my editor when it was the biggest book Wildstorm had in years and one of the best-selling books on the market, and still they wanted to cancel us. And so we were, but they gave us the rights back, and that was probably the greatest gift we ever got.
And the passage to the TV series.
Yeah, that's one of the gifts. The audience reaction was real positive there, and then I was very worried when they were going to adapt it, because it took a long time. Because in 2008 we originally signed an option for a series of films, and the films never got off the ground. And we had Adam McKay was going to do. He had taken a pass at the screenplay and sharpened it up, and he showed me. We got to be friends, and he showed me what he was working on. He had some animatics that were just incredible, and I mean, they never gave him a green light. And as it was, he went, well, I guess that's not going to happen, and went off and won like 3 Oscars. Like, how in the world did we have that kind of talent and not get the thing made? But I was, I guess, waiting for Eric Kripke, because even when the first season came out, I was just worried that it was going to maybe last one season, and to see it be so successful to where like Homelander's a meme now, that is just, that's hard to wrap my head around, because something that came from my imagination is now grown into this much larger thing that far beyond my vision for it. And I'm grateful, because it's good. I mean, I like it from a fan standpoint. If I had nothing to do with it, I would watch that show. But the fact that they've done such a wonderful job of steering it back into the comics where it counts, and that where it fits, it's what matters. Like, the characters are right in their character, but it's doing its own storyline and its own thing. I'm totally okay with that, because a TV show has a very different job than a comic book does, and you have to be prepared to let some things go. Otherwise, you're being naive. Like, of course, it's not going to be exactly what we did, but every choice that was made along the way, I would ask questions. I'm like, oh, well, why does Butcher have a beard, and things like that. Everything was thought through. It wasn't random. It wasn't just like, we're changing that because we want to. Everything was very carefully crafted, and it shows in the quality of the show.
So you're not involved directly in the shows?
In the beginning we were consulted, but no, I'm not like in the writer's room. I've been to set and I created artwork for the first few seasons, so I was involved in that regard.
And now we have also the spin-off, the
Gen V, but Gen V is like almost completely original, with the exception of it being set in a place that we created for the comic book. But the overall arc, like those characters are original for the show, and they're great.
What do you think about Crust comics?
About what?
Crust. Don't you know the Crust comics?
Corrupt?
Crust.
Crust.
Oh, Crust. I had nothing to do with that. That wasn't my work at all.
I know, but don't you like
I don't
it?
really like talking about other people's work. It's like if it's something I worked on, I can give you.
Okay, let's not talk about some people's work, but what do you think about AI's work?
I don't care for it.
You don't care for it? No. So what do you?
Because all AI is just taking stuff from other people and turning it into something else.
So you're not a fan, definitely.
What?
You're not a fan.
No, I think it's a bad thing, because what
Bad
it's
thing.
doing, it's basically a plagiarism machine. If there was a program that you could manipulate based on some kind of internal function, then I would make more sense. But it has to go out and reach from other people's existing work to make an amalgam, and it's never very good. It always looks like exactly that. And at the same time, the people whose work it's stealing from, they don't get credit for that. And we all had to go and learn how to draw and put years and years into it for somebody else to go, oh, I'm just going to go punch and make this thing. And there are good things about AI that I think are helping. Like, for example, I don't know if you know about this, but I think it's up in Washington in the United States. They have two robots that work on AI, and all they do all day long is pick out plastic from recycling, which is a job nobody wants to do, but is very necessary.
Okay.
And it can separate plastic, the right kinds of plastic, and sort them into bins like at lightning speed. And that's like an AI job. It can identify and separate plastic, and it's two robots that work on AI. I'm like, that's a great use of AI. But artwork, I don't think that that's a good thing, because it's stealing. If it's not like, I often see my friends worry about it. They go, oh, AI is going to replace us. I'm like, no. I think it's a new toy, and everybody's interested in the new toy. But just like every new toy, a new toy becomes an old toy. And what is really at the root of what's wrong with it is AI has never had its heart broken. It's never had a pet die. It never saw a baby born. These are the things that fuel artwork. It's like, I heard an AI song, and they had some kind of robotic, weird face morphine girl going, this is my AI song. And it's like she's saying things that she thinks mean something. But she's not feeling any of that, because she's not a she. It's a machine trying to understand what a human feels. A machine, I will go so far as to say it never will, because our very natures are meant to try and fail. And failure is the greatest teacher of all. And an AI it succeeds from the beginning. It comes out from other people's successes and then deteriorates it into a failure.
Mm-hmm. I've heard nice comparison. You have not failed. You have discovered a way how not to do things.
That's a very good quote.
Yeah,
I like that.
And another quote is someone said, well, I want AI to do my dishes, so I have time to paint. I don't want AI to paint for me to have time to do my dishes.
I think that's a much better use, because you don't have to, an AI, learning how to wash a dish, that's not taking from anybody. That's helping the world. Like those two robots sorting that plastic.
No. In any case, it's happening.
Yeah.
I don't. I think one good
There's
thing. I think one good thing on it is that you said it right. It doesn't create anything new.
Yeah. Not yet.
Not yet. Not. I can't imagine how it would look like if it did.
It should be interesting if it does.
Then it would be. Then we can maybe. There's a big question mark on it. Then maybe we can start calling it art. Not yet.
I agree with you.
Not yet.
Because if you're just regurgitating something into if you're able to just put food into a blender, you know, if you took hot dogs and pizza and spaghetti and cheeseburgers, all those things are delicious, and then you put them in a blender and then you drink it like a milkshake, you might go, well, there's some interesting flavors in there, but it's not a good dish.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I feel like AI is doing right now. Like we're just throwing all the good stuff into a blender and then out the other side. But I think the most hilarious part is that with all the brilliance that AI brings in, it can't figure out things like hands. Like that's always the tell in like an AI picture is like, oh, that guy's got like a finger that looks like this, or you know, I saw this Noah's Ark piece and the colors were all very nice, but then you realize there's like a weird lion zebra thing and half of it's out the other side of the boat. Like it can't understand physics because again, it's not real. It's trying to understand something it hasn't been. I wouldn't say it's incapable of it because Lord knows just the fact that we even have these machines now doing these things is incredible. But I think it's got a long way to go, and I still, in my heart of heart, believe that the moment it becomes really mainstream, that's the moment people are going to reject it entirely. It's kind of like how everybody said, oh, now there's CDs, nobody will ever want vinyl records again. What are real popular right now? Vinyl records. Did you ever read a book by Kurt Vonnegut called Player Piano?
Of course.
It's one of my favorites, and that is a great example. Like one of the points in that book is that there's this robotic AI bar that it's computerized, but this was written in the 50s when computers were brand new. And in the story, there was like in the city there was this perfect bar. It was always clean, the temperature was just right, and you go in and you put because that's when sandwich machines and automats were a brand new thing. But so Vonnegut had imagined like you go in, you put your coin in, and it pours you a perfectly measured drink in a sparkling clean glass, and nobody wants to go there. That place was always empty. Where were they? They were at the bar on the other side of the bridge where the mechanics lived, where there were peanut shells on the ground and the piano was out of tune and people were getting into fights. And like, there's something in humanity that we want that real element. And that's what art and music are the best at. Like in my heart of hearts, like that's what makes the human experience tolerable is art and music and food.
Yeah. Definitely, Vonnegut was a genius. We can all agree about that.
One of my favorites.
And Aldous Huxley.
Yes.
He was a genius as well. All those.
Predicting the future is a tricky game.
Orwell said, you know, future will be dangerous because there will be all the information will be banned and you will not have the information available. I'm not quoting him exactly.
No, but I know what you're saying.
But Aldous Huxley say the future will be dangerous not because the information will not be available, but it was all the way around. You know, there will be that much information that you will be flooded by information. You will drown in information.
That's the reality.
And I think what you guys do is if you swim long enough in a sea, in a shallow sea, gray sea, sometimes you find a pearl, you know, and you have to swim long enough, you know. So that's, I think, this is what I think is like a chance for art these days, because this picture which I showed you, it was very clear. My girlfriend took my picture in a car and I put it into the, whatever is it called, Mid-Journey. Mid-Journey, and I said, okay, take this picture, make me look like a Marvel villain from the classic era. And it came up with, I don't know, 20 designs. I took this one, I took this one, put it in because it looks like Marvel design.
It's fine.
But it's nothing new on it.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. If you're just having fun with it, I don't have a problem with people having
As long
fun.
as
It's
long
the
as you don't
idea-
sell it.
Right, and selling it would be, I think, is a fool's errand. And it was funny because I saw a quote that somebody had tweeted out, like this big long list, like AI artists put a lot of work into their thing, and for people to just take it, it's wrong. And I'm like, boy, the cognitive dissonance going on there, the complete irony in this person's protest. Like, do you understand that without the AI taken from other people? Like, I saw some AI did a Batman page, and like part of it looked like Michael Allred and part of it looked like Brian Bolland, but it was borrowing from people's existing work and then saying it's their own. It's like I said, it's a program plagiarism. Mm-hmm. But if it's just for fun, then hey, who cares? I don't have any problem with people having fun. It's just the idea that it's going to replace artists is kind of silly to me. I mean, it will for a while. I have a feeling that it's going to have to do this. But just like I was saying about vinyl records, it's like people are going to have to exhaust themselves with CDs before they realize, vinyl was a little bit cooler.
Well, if there is a job that I think AI would replace in the graphic design area, I think that will be graphic designer and advertising agencies.
Yeah.
And no one really cares about them, to be honest, you know. So not well. I've used work and their copies as much as well as the AI.
I agree with you.
You know,
I think that disposable art is probably going to be heavily dependent on AI, but I don't think that. But what will I believe what I see in these trends? And this is, I could be wrong, but what I think will happen is it will become so commonplace that it will start to be. I can't think of a better word than offensive. It'll eventually start to smell like a block of cheese that you left out too long. Uh-huh. It'll just get old, and people will just go, eh. And so when somebody steps in and does something original, that original thing is going to grab eyes in a way that the AI will become so commonplace that people will just start to grow tired of it. They'll recognize it instinctively. But then it's like if you look at advertising over the years, you'll see a pattern. And in the 40s, everything was like Norman Rockwell. Like everything.
What?
Norman Rockwell.
Okay.
Famous artist.
Norman Rockwell.
He
yes.
painted in a very all that era was very original, realistic style. Mm-hmm. And everybody, because Rockwell was very popular, he did covers for a magazine called the Saturday Evening Post. And this iconic Americana images that everybody sort of did a variation of that. And then along came like the 60s, and in the 60s suddenly things got like skewered, and suddenly it was like really abstract and great bold colors and very wide strong shapes and caricature, and that became like dominant in advertising for a while. It was like the polar opposite of what Rockwell was doing. I mean, it couldn't have been more different. And then eventually that became the early 70s, and people got tired of it, and it went into another thing. And so it's an amorphous process, and there's no predicting it because it really comes down to taste. But I think ultimately when you're trying to appeal to a mass audience like advertising does, you still have to go for the heart. And if there's no heart in your work, you're connecting with nothing. It's like throwing a dart in the dark. You may know that the dartboard's over there somewhere, but your instincts for where the bullseye is are removed from it. So you're just throwing something randomly in the dark rather than hitting the target.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have one more question.
Sure.
I'll try to go back to the shows. Thank you for your AI opinion.
Thank you.
It's very nice to see.
It's nice to be asked about it.
I can imagine most people ask you about exactly this kind questions about your work, your images, comics, stuff like that. I have to admit, I'm not an expert.
Good.
Yeah, I'm just a normal person, who has his job, who's a journalist.
Sure. Same
as Spider Jerusalem.
Yes.
That's why he appeals to me, . So and I like his style. But we all, I can see we all have seen The Boys on Netflix. We all have seen
Amazon.
Punisher.
Amazon Prime.
Video.
Oh, okay, sorry, it was Prime. Sorry, I got confused with so
Netflix
many.
is the competition. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
So, okay, it's streaming service. So which one did you like more? You know, The Boys or The Punisher? Have you seen both?
I have. I like The Punisher very much. I had nothing to do with it. It
Okay.
has nothing to do with my work.
That's on Netflix.
Okay.
Punisher is
That
on
was
Netflix.
fun.
I'm confusing something, you know,
That
so...
was, well, I worked on The Punisher, but I mean, I didn't create him or anything. I co-created The Boys. So that is, I have a very vested interest in that and how that goes. But Punisher, I'm just a fan like everybody else. I just got lucky enough to draw some good stories.
As for the comics, I have to say I liked Punisher a little bit more. As for the TV shows, I like The Boys more, you know. So
That's interesting.
Okay, so
I have a
What was the question?
which one did you like more?
I like The Boys
can I
more
ask-
because they pay me.
Oh, sorry.
I get money when that's on TV.
Sorry.
Just a short question. Can you imagine the perfect director for a Transmetropolitan movie or series?
That's a very good one.
Could I imagine? Yes.
Yes.
I mean, in my perfect world, it depends on what element you're going for. But let me put it this way. Once upon a time, back when the comic was just kind of blowing up a little bit, Terry Gilliam was looking at it. And Terry Gilliam, I loved Brazil, so he would have been great. Nothing came of it. I just heard that he was interested in it, and that might have just been a rumor. Sorry, if Terry Gilliam, if you ever hear this and you're like, I did not. I love what Quentin Tarantino would bring to it, but I know he only likes to work in his own universes. And it's hard because it depends on what element you're going for. I would say
See? Oliver Stone.
Yes.
No.
Nature.
I think you're just thinking of Natural Born Killers, and that guy looked like Spider-Bruce, like Woody did, but I don't see Oliver Stone. I don't think he has the sense of humor for it.
No.
But I don't know. I mean, it really would come down to somebody who is passionate about it, and what, you know, before I would know whether or not they'd be the right director. I wouldn't know. I don't know if I'll be lucky enough to even make that kind of decision, but I hope that whoever does it brings the same enthusiasm for the original source material that Eric Kripke and Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg brought to The Boys, because they all really love the comics and were very emphatic about telling us in the beginning how happy they were to get to work on the adaptations.
Super last, I think. Do you have a line you will never cross on drawing comics? You know.
Something that I
yes.
wouldn't draw. I don't know. It depends on what the context is for the story itself. Like with The Boys, it wasn't just the act of making something that was outrageous or offensive. It was that it fit the story. And so for me, the storytelling is the most important element of trying to bring a comic book to life. So if the world that I'm drawing and the writer's script is trying to paint a picture of a bleak, dark world, I'm going to make the artwork bleak and dark because that's the story I'm being asked to tell. If it's a lighthearted story, I'm not going to make it bleak and dark just because that's what I'm known for or that's fun. I would rather it fit the story. So in The Boys, it was a matter of Ennis was trying to paint a picture of a world where on the front everything looked nice, but behind the scenes it was really dark and awful. So you can't really contrast light unless you know what dark is. So dark is there to make the light lighter, huey, starlight, you know, like and their love and the way that grew apart in the story, that was intentionally drawn to be more attractive and kinder and comfortable to look at. That would be what would be define the line. Like I don't like drawing things that are mocking or I like to entertain people. I wouldn't want to hurt anybody intentionally by drawing something that was offensive because it was making somebody feel terrible about themselves or something they love. I would do it if the character was trying to make you feel that, because if you hate that character because it's doing that, then it's doing its job. I do believe very much in storytelling as a way of working out things that bother people, because nobody has ever died because of something I put on paper with ink. You know, that's never, you know, killed anybody's dog or got anybody fired. And, you know, that is just a drawing on paper. And if it makes you imagine things, and if you're uncomfortable with that, then that's something for the reader to examine within themselves. That's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to tell you a story. And if you like that story, great. If you're disturbed by that story and it's supposed to disturb you, then I've done my job well. But is there a line I wouldn't cross? I'm not sure exactly what you mean.
Graphically.
Graphically.
Okay.
You're really very late.
Okay.
Okay, so
Thank
thank
you.
you very
Thank you.
much. Thanks a lot.